October 5th, 2023. And this is a joint meeting of the Master Plan Advisory Committee and the Planning Board. We will be recording the meeting, so it will be available online as usual. And we do have an excellent turnout this evening. I'm amazed at this committee. They have shown up for 2 years. And moving along. So with that, I'd ask Jessica to do a roll call.
Hey, Marcus Vogt,
Present.
David Spina,
Here.
Doug Moglen,
Present.
Randy Brown,
Here.
David G. Glory, Bert Hanson,
I'm here.
Dave McWilliams,
Here.
Norm Cheever,
Here.
Alita De Maria, Scott Lehman,
Here.
Jory Boyd, here, Roz Terry, here, Jessica Parker here, Corey Rowland,
Here.
Marissa Cook Obregon,
Here.
Michael Doherty,
Here.
Lucas Karen, Maria Michael, and David Sutton,
Here.
Richard Utzinger, and Jessica Thorin.
Here.
All right, thank you. With that roll call, I'll note we have a quorum of the Planning Board and a quorum of the Master Plan Advisory Committee. So thank the Planning Board for attending. Mr. Kamiya will be doing the presentation shortly, I would expect. John did send out a link to the draft plan. And we've worked on formatting it at least 2 meetings and working on the text for a couple months. John Goddard has a copy for, did you give it to the planning board members, the chapter authors?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see there, who from the committee did the various chapters. We divided and conquered, sort of. And a couple folks ended up doing double duty. Thank you very much. To help out with, I think 2 of the chapters at least. So, if you have any specific questions as we get into things, after this meeting or during the meeting, those are the people who were working on the chapters. Let's see. Next item would be public comment or dialogue. Do we have anybody who would like to say anything? Yes. Could you state your name and address, please?
Inga Hoteling, 45 Pine Road. I'm also now the chair of the Economic Development Commission. And I just want to express that we are willing to support the 2040 initiatives moving forward and bring the town of Southwick into the future. We're going to redefine our commission and we're going to be very proactive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do we have any guests online? We do. Who is online with us? Sage Fury. Lucy Bernard. We have 2 there. Yes, we do. All right. So, Mr. Kamiya, you wave when you think you're ready, or otherwise we'll kind of fill in a little bit.
I'm just logging into the
You're logging in?
to the
Okay. I guess as a filler, I could jump ahead. We had one item under old business, which I think the planning board would be interested in benefiting from. Item 4A, which is a discussion of the implementation committee membership. We've visited about that amongst the Master Plan Advisory Committee members for a couple meetings. And we went back and forth. We started out with 7 members of the implementation committee. We went up to 9 members of the implementation committee. We jumped up to 15 members of the implementation committee. And then we back to 5.
Some of us
So-
over 3.
We made great progress. And I think there's a consensus, I believe, on the 5 members, which would be a select board representative, a planning board representative, and 3 residents. That would be the implementation committee. But then we know as the committee works and gets into different areas, topic areas, whether it's housing, economic development, things that involve financing, you'd pull in various boards, commissions, and committees to participate in the meetings. So from an efficiency standpoint, we thought 5 would work well. We have had 17 members here of this subcommittee, and miraculously, we've had quorums every time. So I don't know, that's just a recommendation because it's totally up to the planning board as to how you want to formulate, you know, an implementation committee.
I have no desire to have it be the purview of the planning board. I think it should be completely separate from the planning board and have no, because the planning board is gonna have a decent amount of stuff to come from it to the planning board. So and the fact that there's a planning board member on it, you know, I think makes sense to some degree, but I would want it to be not under the control of the planning board at all.
They were just saying one. Right?
No, I understand, but I, as far as, I don't want it to be I think it should be its own committee
Oh, yeah.
by itself,
Yeah, would be.
standalone.
Yep.
Not, I mean, there has to be a discussion about how it gets constituted, as far as who would put the members on, or how they would get on, but my inclination is to say that it should be completely separated from, it should be a standalone committee.
So a town committee?
Yeah.
Okay. And Ken Camilla, our consultant, did help us a little bit on thinking about, you know, how something could be structured, because various towns have done it different ways. So anyway, I thought that was a useful thing as far as under old business to kind of wrap that up, particularly with the members of the planning board here. So any comments from the subcommittee members? Okay, so we'll go back to item 3 on the agenda, which is the key thing this evening, is a presentation of the final draft of the master plan. And Ken Camilla, I think everybody knows Ken. He has been to the planning board a couple of times to sort of share where we are, where we were in the process. And he's been the one primarily putting everything together. And we appreciate his work because he did lose a graphic designer for a while over it, and maybe still over at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission due to some personal issues. But Ken is forged on, so the graphics that you see in the draft are certainly available for discussion and modification. I think Ken wanted to have enough so he could show some things this evening. The key thing is the text and how things are laid out as far as the strategy and the actions in each chapter. So,
I'm sorry, Marcus, when did this wind up getting into the hands of the planning board members?
pardon,
When did they get their copy?
what time today? They got it today.
Got it. So you guys got it.
Time, but.
All right.
Couple times.
Hey, I like the picture.
Yeah.
So, you know, we apologize some for logistics obviously, we wanted to get it out sooner, but, we have to forge ahead. So Ken, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you both, Master Plan Advisory Committee members and the planning board. Thank you for allowing me to come here. I think, pardon my tardiness, but it's just a great day today. But I'm here, and I'm glad, as I was preparing this presentation, it did like jostle some good memories of this particular process, both when we had our first community meeting back in October last year. And how you've all been talking about, how you wanted to approach the master plan. And I've been, so excited to walk with you every step of the way and, prepare this. So as, Mark has said, this is, somewhat of a presentation of the final draft of your plan, of the town's plan. There are some, as you probably are noticing, some big green pages where some photos will be, but for the most part, the text is all the text that will be presented. There's just some formatting that will need to be handled. With that said, this is a quote that I shared the first time I met everyone in the community. Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together by Manco. And it is something that, whenever I work with master plan advisory committees or steering committees, it is those conversations that we have at those meetings and at our community meetings. And it's kind of the piecemeal approach that we've been approaching this little by little, seeing drafts written, seeing comments by committee members. It's an exciting opportunity to put everything together and then see what masterpiece you can look at. So with that said, the Master Plan Advisory Committee, I've been very excited to work with all of them over the past year and a half. And these are those members, and thank you to Mr. John Goddard for his assistance during this process, and that staff person that the town was. What is a master plan for those that are watching this or will be watching this? I'm excited by Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81D. There is a legal framework that's provided for that. We're going to go through those elements that are what composes of that particular Mass General Law as blueprint. It describes the long-term vision and how to achieve it. It guides zoning changes, capital improvements, budgeting, general decision-making policy. What I foresee is that some of your planning documents, maybe some of your zoning, some of the other tools that you have at the town's disposal will include reference to the master plan, in addition to your open space plan, in addition to the forthcoming production plan, among all the other state plans. Covers the time frame from 10 to 20 years. This is the Southwick 2040 master plan. And as the chair was discussing a little bit earlier with regards to reviews and convening of a master plan implementation committee, that's the next step. That's where you move from. The elements of a master plan. So this is captured in section in that Mass General Law. Land use, housing, economic development, historical and cultural resources, open space and natural resources, transportation, public services and facility, and climate change and sustainability, which is not a required element. However, it makes sense within the context of our changing climate. In addition to goals and the implementation schedule, which are part of that legal framework for the master plan. So I think at the last Master Plan Advisory Committee, we're talking about how many meetings, how many iterations of the vision statement we came across and reviewed over time. This is the one that the Master Plan Advisory Committee moved forward with. Southwest distinctive Massachusetts location crossing the Connecticut border makes us a desirable southern New England community. Residents and visitors of all ages enjoy natural resources, including lakes and fertile farmland, uniquely balanced with modern services and a vibrant social atmosphere. We welcome small to mid-sized businesses from services like manufacturing and agriculture to technology and innovative startups and help them thrive, adapt, and grow while enhancing our. So what came of this particular process too, is there are themes that are kind of threaded throughout the master plan. Grow with Southwick, increase reasons for people to live, work, and play in town. Looking at housing types, modern amenities, economic opportunities, and schools that prepare students for all careers. Prepare the town to meet environmental and regulatory challenges, stabilizing water quality and availability to promote adaptable farming and sustainable related services, including electric vehicle support. Providing infrastructure upgrades that support small to mid-sized businesses from existing services to technology and innovative startups, many of which do not exist today. Improve or adapt infrastructure, utilities, transportation services that will support an aging population, but also appeal to diverse younger demographics. Encourage beautification, modernization, of these services and social options within the region, and corresponding marketing to ultimately increase awareness and sustain local market and research campaigns. Building upon existing brand recognition like your Motocross to increase complementary businesses. And supporting renovation of historical barns and buildings into use that can accommodate cultural events or activities in businesses in beautiful locations, creating a competitive advantage over nearby communities. So there were some like that. So within the context of this master plan, the committee, I think towards the middle of the process as we were starting to draft chapters, identifying something that we ended up including into the master plan that were like ongoing trends, both in Pine Valley, Massachusetts, and the nation. So a couple of these are reflected here. Smart growth and transit-oriented development, we hear about that both in the context of many state programs that exist and require some additional housing development, not necessarily in Western Mass, but definitely around Boston. Adapting to the changing climate. So it's clear that some of these actions as we explore them will look into how to adapt to climate change. Energy efficient and net zero passive home design and construction. Again, green energy efficiency in your homes, especially to address sustainability into the future. I think this also can probably be something somewhat related to the aging in place and requirements for older people and how they may have to navigate home maintenance in the future. So looking at home building and looking at materials that are more sustainable. Population and household growth. It's an aging population, and that is not unique to Southwick, it's all over the country. With that said, there was an identified trend also with younger people leaving the town, not necessarily exploring a pathway back. It's one of those, what do they call them? Call them brain trains. Not necessarily just identifying that the people that you have grown up with in your town and you have to be citizens of the town and leaving, and sometimes they're not returning. Housing affordability, again, not unique to Southwick or Pioneer Valley. Housing is getting more expensive. That's explored in the plan, but generally it's a large trend that's happening. Agricultural and forestry. With regards to Southwick and other parts of the Pioneer Valley, I was just part of a discussion 2 weeks ago regarding solar development and the cutting down forests basically to clear cut forests and allow for solar. But then there's this balance of the state coming with programs that incentivize solar on agricultural lands. So there's this balance that we're navigating both as municipalities in the Pioneer Valley, but also generally when we're looking at the balance of ensuring that we're exploring energy and becoming less efficient on fossil fuels. Recreational economy and tourism, that was something that was identified both in Southwick, but also many of our hill towns and at least west of the Connecticut River. There's a lot of opportunities here for looking at how to use recreation as something to draw. Adaptive reuse, older buildings, infill development, ensuring that you're looking at ways to redevelop rather than build on top of green and cutting down trees or using farmland and then trying to navigate development that way. Lost farmland, increasing impervious surfaces, I think, with development, that obviously is a discussion topic. And sometimes there are programs and processes that exist for towns to explore that rely on technologies that not necessarily decrease impervious surface, but ensure that there's no water handles. Focus on public transportation. Again, this idea that we're trying to rely less on fossil fuels. This is an aspect that bike and pedestrian friendly transportation systems and initiatives. I think since the pandemic, more people are out, or maybe they're returning back to their old behaviors. But I know for when we were in the pandemic, a lot of people were relying on getting around and enjoying the clean air. Electric vehicles is a trend that's ongoing. Diversity in schools was identified in this timeframe, and climate change topics. With that said, this is the diagram that's in the master plan. Looking at 2023, the town currently has a new England field, appeals to existing residents, including the Asian population, as I mentioned previously. Right to farm community, avoiding large industrial complexes. There's some survey data that was not necessarily support large industry in town, preserving open spaces and natural resources. And where we look to 2040, right? We're trying to examine how to create this approach. Or updated infrastructure and their housing choices, creating modern amenities, jobs, and the social atmosphere to retain young residents, attract new families. Sustainable agriculture that can withstand climate change, attracting newer types of industries, including high tech and startups, and mixed use. So the next couple of slides are basically each of the chapters and the elements. So the way that I'm presenting this is both going to be a skill set of me relying on the plan on my phone, because I didn't put all the actions on. We have a total of 138 actions, so I was not going to go through each one. But we'll go through we'll go through some takeaways and the strategies that have been identified for each chapter. And then I'll summarize some of the particular actions that have been identified by the committee and the conversation. With some of the takeaways, land use, affirmation of the importance of the town's rural character. I think it was 70% plus saying that the town should remain, should keep its rural character and charm. Looking at the types of uses and what type of development in town, and look at the open space plan to examine ways to enact those strategies. Updating boundaries of existing zoning districts, looking at mixed uses, that was a common takeaway, particularly related to the town center. Relying on urban design guidelines, again, related to the town center, maybe how to look at development in the future and housing affordability. So one of the strategies that have been identified in the land use section, in the land use chapter, strategize future development and growth in South Lake, balancing the town's distinctive heritage, her rural character, and commitment to natural resources. So some of the actions, when you look at each strategy, there are either probably for the plan, I think the chair plan we discussed, the opportunities for the planners to look at regulations, and I think a lot of these are going to be led by the planning board. So some of the actions that have been identified within this strategy, performing a zoning diagnostic, taking a look and seeing if there's an opportunity for the town to look at the boundaries of the zoning map, understanding how to look at open space design, natural resource protection zoning and bylaws, the flexible residential development, which the town currently has adopted. That is a component of the work that EPC will be continuing to do in the new year, working with the planning board and looking at that. Reviewing how design guidelines are currently administered by the planning board and others when looking at development. Reviewing and considering updates to the subdivision rules and regulations, and evaluating the impact of the major development bylaw passed in 2022. Specifically, as it was a survey question regarding size cap, maximum square footage, and maximum expansions. The next strategy, enhancing the town center as a livable, workable, walkable, and healthy neighborhood. I apologize for the formatting, I did this map and ended up looking at this. This enhancement could include how current zoning policies may need to be updated to encourage various development and redevelopment of land and areas throughout town to allow for new businesses, beautification, vitalization of downtown areas, and addition of mixed-use zones within the town center. With regards to this particular strategy, some of the actions identified is to look at the town center study from 2014, utilize the 2004 community development plan, the conversations of this committee, the community meetings, to identify any sort of regulation or review of regulation for town center development. Encouraging adaptive reuse and infill development in the town center. That's another strategy that was identified. Actually, the last strategy for the land use chapter, creating opportunities to allow for new housing options, making use of existing corridors of density and infrastructure. With that said, the actions that have been identified for that particular strategy, adopting bylaws for both in-law apartments and or tiny homes, and consider other forms of accessory units, existing residential areas to promote diversity in housing. Examining the Mass General Law 40Y, Chapter 40Y, and Chapter 40R legislation, particular to starter home districts and smart growth zoning overlay districts, both providing incentives to the town and passing. So that's it for land use. I will say that housing and economic development always are generally aligned with some of the land use discussion, just because oftentimes when you're looking at housing and when you're looking at economic development, there are regulatory tools that the town examines in order to achieve some of those goals. Takeaways in housing. Chapter 40B, development as an issue and opportunity. The subsidized housing inventory for the town is under 10%. So that, I think it came up in the conversation of the master plan with regards to how to look at 40B development, whether or not, it's something that you're trying to not do, or not have developer come in, and work with the zoning board and, approving that. Or identifying a friendly developer that you can navigate regulations with. Other takeaways, older adults, housing affordability and aging in place, and providing those opportunities for older people in town. Looking at the housing stock and at the growth of aging population. Variety of housing choice types. There's obviously a majority of the homes, housing stock in Southwick is single family, detached. Inclusionary housing, that is, could be an opportunity. With regards to strategies, and actions for housing. Providing housing stock that protects and maintains the community's scenic natural historic resources. Relying on the open space and recreation plan to ensure protection of the town's open space with the rental housing. That could probably be general to looking at areas of town where presumably you want development to occur. Adopting low impact development standards for all new residential developments. It is something that has been identified as a strategy in your municipal vulnerability preparedness program, your community building, community resilient building workshop, as opportunities for looking at development. Promoting housing availability in Southwick that's financially attainable for and attractive to all ages and household configurations seeking to reside in town. Some of the actions related to that, adopting ADU bylaws, exploring that. When I say ADUs, that's the in-law apartments, typically. Increasing density in appropriate areas, utilizing the 40R smart growth and 40Y. Start home zoning districts, doing some exploration like that. Establish first-time home buyer educational and assistance program. And those you can navigate through various state agencies, allowing for helping homeowners in getting mass safe assessments and implementing conservation measures on their houses to decrease the cost of heating and cooling. So utility bills would also leads to in-house housing cost burden, which is 30%. Utilizing 30% of your monthly income on housing or more. So finding ways to cut costs there. Monitoring the impact of short-term rental use in Southwick. That was identified as a action. Allow permitting of alternate home designs like tiny homes. Establishing relationships with housing nonprofit organizations such as Habitat for Humanities, Hometown Heroes, Wayfinders to add to mostly existing housing stock. Implementing incentive programs for civil servants and educators to encourage those working in Southwick to also live in Southwick. So that was an additional action identified under that strategy. Increasing affordable housing to make progress towards National or Law Chapter 40B. Affordability housing goal of 10% for Southwick. With that said, you're currently the town is pursuing the housing production plan, and that will be forthcoming to the planning board and the select board for adoption. Establishing a public housing trust fund to receive, manage, and administer community preservation act funds for housing projects, including rental properties. That was identified as a strategy. Applying for community development block grants to rehabilitate existing housing stock, and reviewing potential use of inclusionary housing programs as an action for that strategy. So some takeaways from the economic development chapter include vacant farmland and business and industrial zones, town center development and improvement, wanting to look further into that. Condominium lakes as part of the recreational economy, enhancing and growing the agricultural economy. Cannabis business retention, and looking at how to keep businesses in town. So with that said, there were some, strategies identified in the housing, in the economic development chapter that include fortifying and deploying town hall resources such as the Economic Development Commission and other relevant boards to establish strong relationships with local businesses as well as create new modalities to their innovation. Become a welcome business. Some of the actions under that particular strategy include developing a database, updating resources on the Economic Development Commission website, identifying staff person for town hall to lead coordination on economic development, organize and host local business networking groups, inviting a business, including farms and trade business, to the EDC to discuss needs and issues and share publicity meeting. Hold small business and Southwick forum once a year and invite current business owners, prospective small business owners. Invite Mass Challenge, Mass Development, Mass Department of Economic Development, and any other regional small business incubators to discuss how to foster an environment of innovation in town. Holding a public forum about what it would entail to establish the Southwick Chamber of Commerce and commerce. Develop a full color printed brochure featuring Southwick grown businesses with short blurbs about businesses, content, race, and word out. Develop a buy local campaign and include agriculture and locally produced goods and services as well as develop marketing. Organizing public forums, local restaurants, to talk about their particular services, organizing meetings with property owners along the common lakes to find compatible uses for dated and underutilized properties, discuss possibilities of short-term rental and pay for existing content. Establishment of a Southwick social and entertainment subcommittee with broad demographic representation. Explore competitive landscape for venues, live entertainment, and related social or entertainment opportunities. Survey the town and regional residents for preferences in social and entertainment options, define what needs are being met and where the gaps are, and creating and executing a modern market plan for HIV awareness. Putting Southwick on that is one of the second strategy, development, examining current policies of the town hall. This is mostly the record of city this want for development. Some of the actions that have been established for that particular strategy, rail trail at common lakes to the town beach and other venues, reviewing zoning for looking at the town center, pursuing town center redevelopment, revitalization, beautification strategies, looking at identifying new committees to help support that work. Considering limiting new development until all zoning requests for zoning committees and adherence are completed. Developing and implementing an economic incentive program that may tax incentives and practices for new businesses coming to Southwick. Developing and implementing a tax incentive programs for existing with aim creating new and local employment opportunities. And the final strategy that was identified for economic development, continuing to galvanize support for local agriculture in town. And with that said, some of the actions identified there include organizing an annual Taste the Southwick event featuring the local restaurants. And exploring the feasibility of starting a cooperative business in the town center with local agriculture business and local business. So the next section is historical cultural resources. Looking at the takeaways from that, identifying preservation plan initiatives. So there is this thing that's going through the preservation planning industry, where because of climate change, sometimes those resources are, they're losing those resources. And so with that said, they're identifying opportunities for folks. Looking at cultural center in the town, ensuring that there's no further loss of historic resources that are locally significant. As I mentioned, climate change impacts historic and cultural resources. Looking at preservation versus energy efficiency, sometimes in the vein of talking about being energy efficient, sometimes preservation is desired destination for social, entertainment, and cultural activity. That was identified as something to take away from this particular segment. With regards to strategies and actions for historic and cultural resources, elevating the awareness, respect, and pride of the town and your various historic and cultural amenities. Some of the actions identified are looking for establishing goals for commission, the historic commission for historic preservation in town. Developing a town-wide preservation plan, completing a cultural asset mapping and defining Southwest community and cultural center. Doing that inventory of your various resources in town. Establishing regulatory tools to ensure protections of irreplaceable built resources and city landscapes, like city bylaw or demolition, identifying those as regulatory tools. And inventory municipally owned historic properties and collections and plan for resiliency by completing inventory of those. Developing local preservation award and historic plat programs for property owners. Establishing policy and zoning to support the adaptive reuse within Southwick. Seeking training and other resources applicable to municipal roles in historical and cultural planning. Pursuing funds to support the rehabilitation and reactivation of underutilized historic properties. Establishing a historical district or your cultural district and that is completed. That is something that probably should be explored, realizing that establishing a purification commission that would be responsible for looking at things like and finally exploring the option of designating studio space for local art. Another strategy that was identified in historic cultural resources, broadening the cultural programming through the town. The Western Revolution, local regional groups. Some of the actions identified pursuing the designation of the Southwick Local Cultural District, organizing oral history projects to engage all citizens in the historic of Southwick, establishing what's happening in Southwick page of the town website, bringing people to a central location where they can find out exactly as they get it out. Broadening the knowledge for American communities in Southwick by exploring historic archives. Some of the takeaways from open space and natural resources, the balancing development to the town water supply that was brought up in the survey. Looking at how watching development to look, but also monitoring how much water the town has to ensure that it can support that in this sustaining high service and groundwater quality. Environmental resilience. So some of the strategies and actions from open space and recreation, open space and natural resources, continuing to educate the town's population and the physical value of the town's natural resources, finding opportunity for to learn about how to be responsible to your nature. And with that, there were some strategies under that particular strategy, educating, creating and distributing pamphlet to lakefront property owners explaining the provisions of the Wetland Protection Act, because of the properties along the lake, obviously there are regulations are out there. It was identified as an action. Developing a brochure to promote current areas of open space in town, to make sure that it's updated correctly, accordingly. Mandating an annual review of chapter 61 protocol of right new local procedure policy for land 61, 51, and 61B to ensure that all the boards are following that to the letter. Organize an annual open forum to connect with and educate landowners on the options for clearing their land, establishing protocols that communicate with local land trusts, initiating an ongoing free program that offers workshops to train members, certify burn pools. That would be something that the foundation encouraging the establishment of an environmental club at the high school to again increase the conversation about stewardship of the natural resources. Organizing free workshops on regenerative agriculture practices with experts around the area. Establishing a climate change and preparedness and resilience committee. So another establishing a new committee in town government that support guidance to climate change and sustainability. One of the next strategies, maintaining the town's open space and natural resources through proper stewardship. That's sustained, continued, and informed by government support. Increasing coordination with the abutting communities to talk about protecting water quality, and maybe looking at a way to identify that in regulatory work. Lake management committee to implement and address ongoing programs to reduce shoreline erosion, working with Mass DEP as well to determine how to regulate the number of oil-and-gas boats on the lake, as that was identified as an issue. Establishing a multi-community aquifer advisory committee that's inclusive of all towns that tap into the aquifer located south to address drinking water quality. Create and implement a dark sky model for the town. Establish a beautification policy. Develop a plan trees that along sidewalks bordering routes to 210 and 57, as well as garden and seed training. Plans. Working with Massachusetts Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals grant program to get funding methodologies that's operating your contributions are impacting some of the unofficial monitoring. Next strategy, acquire. Southwick works to selectively and purposely acquire new parcels of land to align with the mandate to maintain Southwick's storm character, ensuring that open spaces are available for those that want to use it. Some of the actions identified there, establishing a permanent open space committee to focus on land preservation, passive recreation, sustainability, and that's outside of maybe what the Conservation Commission would do, looking at another commission to identify, or committee to identify parcels that could be acquired to implement the space plan. Organizing an annual meeting among the supporting parties to update prioritize parcels of land that are ecological, agricultural, scenic, or significant protected lands, led by the open space committee, identifying parcels for the select community preservation committee, Parks and Rec, the climate change preparedness and resilience committee, which is going to be a suggested committee, beautification and wellness committee. Establishing and funding a position for a town grant writer to assist various departments, board and commissions to apply for the acquisition, conservation, and passive recreation property. Again, discuss the conversation with butters regarding acquisition and wildlife corridors, spending some continuing to annually reach out to their trust public land and current land owners that abut the city trail to collect, stay updated Transportation, some of the takeaways from each sheet of the program that the town can look at, say, routes to school. I think one of the challenging experiences for me and one of the colleagues working on this is going to the high school and one of the focus groups out that identifying safety issues in front of the high school. Pickup time, drop off time. So, you know, looking at ways to ensure that kids are safe when they're walking and getting to school. Increasing Southwick rail trail usage. Sidewalks, we're talking about that in regards to, utilizing the funds appropriately and I identifying that also, you know, looking at it produce and if you're to, in a subdivision development, or, side of, subdivision aspect. With regards to strategies and action for transportation, continuing to provide and invest in a completed, well-maintained safety system of roads, parking areas, sidewalks, and bridges and culverts. Action, become a green, complete street community and identify locations to provide multimodal transportation, bike lanes, sidewalks, shared use spaces. That came up in the conversation. Adding parking and additional access to this rail trail, implementing safety improvement and the intersections identified at the city office, which is in the plan. Review MassDOT road designation and coordinate updates with MassDOT to provide consistency in active petition. Both master plan recommendation, promoting installation of electric vehicle installation, such as on town properties through bylaw updates. Creating safe and improved non-motorized transportation opportunities, and providing additional transit opportunities out there and between the town and important regional destinations. A lot of this is working with the various regional entities like the Valley Transit Authority. So some of the actions identified here, identifying gaps in the sidewalk network and prioritizing those projects to fill gaps to upgrade the current ADA standard. Working with the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority to identify opportunities to add fixed route service to the town. Participating in Massachusetts State Routes to School in order to promote access to school. Creating a walkable network of expanding rail trail system, promoting installation of bike station, bike racks, on town property, bylaw, regulations to that particular area. As bike sharing services become available, it's not going to consider the opportunity to educate residents on price sharing with regards to public services and facilities, some of the takeaways, again, related to overlap with many of the other sectors, increases in impervious services related to stormwater and ensuring that water increase services. The survey was very exact. Had a lot of enthusiasm for the delivery of services and having solid things all across the board.
Ken, you'll need to speak up.
Okay.
Some, I see, people on Zoom are challenged to hear
Okay.
what you're saying.
Identifying services for current and future needs as, you know, this is a plan to look at 2040. Maintaining the master plan, so that's covered in this particular chapter, that there is a methodology that the committee was talking about earlier on how to look at where you go from here once adopted. Climate action, municipal vulnerability and hazard mitigation planning, again related to the state grants that exist, how to utilize those. That's very with regards to strategies identified for this particular treatment, continuing to provide efficient, affordable, engaging, sustainable town services and facilities. And With that said, some of the identified actions, establishing fund a position for a town grant writer. That was discussed with regards to the open space and recreational chapter. Open space and natural resources chapter. So this could possibly be an opportunity to also work with other offices or other grant opportunities. Highlighting updated building needs assessments for all town facilities, including evaluation of carbon footprint of each building. Particularly as a green community, those are going to be activities that we're going to be looking into. Identifying funding opportunities for capital improvements for town facilities, including community preservation act funds. Ensuring that the town's EDA self-assessment and transition plan is up to date, and that progress is being made to improve facilities and buildings for people with disabilities. Establishing a master plan implementation committee, along with the mechanisms and policies linking the master plan to staff, board, and commission work plan, which for that, this now becomes a tool, when you discuss many policy issues, both when you're working with developers and or when you're looking to train policies. Replacing the roof of the police department facility, including evaluation of sustainable materials for construction, evaluating solid waste transfer stations, continued viability of positive environmental implications, taking advantage of the recent community status by evaluating methods to lower the town's overall carbon footprint. The next one, proactively preparing and evaluating the town's future needs for utilities and services. And you can do that by looking at establishing a public multi-community aquifer advisory committee. Again, that was mostly contemplated in the open space and natural resources chapter. Continuing to evaluate opportunities for sewer expansion in town, expanding high-speed internet service for all residents and businesses. Recently adopted. Strategy 3 support as safe and healthy software. These are related to post-pandemic life. Mostly maintaining vigilance as the ongoing nature of the pandemic. Looking at ways to engage more residents through electronic newsletters. Creating form on how to support the integration of intergenerational opportunities and spaces in the community center. Bringing various in the generations together. Establishing quarterly meetings with park and recreation and school district supporting all student physical activity. Supporting athletic leagues in town with donations, concerts, and other events. Creating a public forum with the council and other town boards and commissions, determine how other town entities can collaborate with the senior center. Establishing shelter space for residents when people are at identify methods to promote more solid residents to be connected and use town or town. And finally, strategy 4 is ensuring a high quality and safe educational experience for Southwick schools with the aim of successfully preparing students for life after secondary education as well as attracting families. And some of those actions as during the community meetings or a lot of this Southwick school, evaluating educational curricula with an eye to future general STEM developments. Evaluating feasibility of adding air conditioning systems for schools, establishing an annual public conversation on school city. So we've arrived at the final chapter, climate change and sustainability and takeaways, increases in impervious surface again, with all the rain events that are happening, flooding issue in the future. Sorry. Those particular takeaways for the climate section were related to more climate events, basically. And ensuring that the town is prepared there. There's climate data that's provided in the master plan. Average temperatures are going up more rain. So that was the main takeaways of that particular section. Strategies that have been identified in this chapter, building local government's capacity to provide leadership. With that said, some actions identifying the current barriers to public outreach regarding climate change and sustainability, and developing techniques to overcome them. That was brought up in one of the focus groups as far as some populations not getting adequate communication when there may be an extreme event. Identifying and develop a list of isolated and or climate vulnerable populations within the community, such as older adults, people of color, etc. And plan to ensure that those types of communications are fair to them. Organizing hybrid and workshop discussions, public forums with guest speakers with residents regarding climate change. Creating inventory of flat roof surfaces, town facilities, and impervious surfaces are kind of the area for renewable energy siting and implement the flat roof projects. Educating and offering insights to provide alternative energy options. Developing municipal energy storage, battery energy, so to enhance the town's benefits from local private rates. Strategy 2, a multidisciplinary, broad-based, and proactive approach taken to protect natural resources, safeguard health and wellness, and have resilient infrastructure, withstand and have adaptability to climate change. Again, creating inventories of town-owned lawns and landscape areas to determine which areas could be allowed to grow into grasses or wildflowers, and are creating pollinator gardens on property to have sustainable farms. Investigating the health of publicly owned forests and develop forestry plans. Enhancing consistency and permanent activities and enforcement in regards to natural resources, stormwater. Continuing proactive culvert replacements, improvements for stream crossings with mindfulness of redundancy and increase of precipitation events and flooding. Investigating methods for the town to assist in developing agricultural irrigation. Enhancing town-wide vector control and education programs for ticks and mosquitoes due to the changing climate. Implementing long-term lake management plans to improve management of bacterial, algal, chemical, and organic nutrients and PFAS contamination. Organizing public forums with local restaurants on food. That was it. Those were 138 actions that the committee contemplated that are part of this plan and spread through 8 different chapters. And I think it's very clear that there was a lot of thought put into ways for the next iteration or what happens after this process through the implementation committee. And I think there's an exciting time to contemplate some of those. What I think generally, as the planning board reviews this, as the town gets its hands on this and takes a look at the work of the master plan advisory committee, it's looking at how thoughtful utilizing the current structure to identify or lead parties and your supporting parties that will help implement a lot of these various actions. And with that said, this is like the easiest slide, which is the next steps. So we obviously will formalize a final plan when every tree is implemented to put it into the plan and fix a little bit of it. In addition to that, the planning board will adopt the master plan based on the trees, and then, as the chair brought up earlier, identifying strategies for the implementation committee and how to get that work started when the plan is adopted and getting those timelines Sorry. So with that, I thank you, for the opportunity to talk about this with you all. And again, congratulate the committee on, this, fantastic.
Thank you, Ken. That was a quick half hour. But, it's great to be able to look at the whole package. I mean, the members have been kind of looking at their own piece of the pie. And so now we've had a week or so to look at the whole of the plan. One thing I'll mention, for the planning board, you'll see in there, under each action, there's a recommended lead party and supporting parties, and then a time frame. And there's little boxes that call out, you know, what the time frame means. Ongoing, obviously, we know that, but short term, medium term, long term, it's kind of the perspective as to how many years we would anticipate some of these things may take to get accomplished. And so I guess that's important. If you look through those actions and you see, oh, maybe there's a board that's more appropriate to be the lead party. We went back and forth a few times on lead parties. Obviously, planning board gets a pretty good shot of actions, conservation commission, and so on down the line. Everybody gets to have a few, some not as many as others, obviously. So with that, open it up to any comments people might have. Mr. Mogul.
Just first, I think we owe Ken and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission a huge debt of thanks, and kind of sometimes felt like herding cats, I'm sure, and kind of keeping this committee on the straight and narrow, so.
All set? Yes,
So,
Mr. Doherty, chairperson.
thank you. Just on behalf of the planning board, I do want to just thank everyone here for what I'm sure were more hours than you were expecting getting into this. Though I'm assuming that was, and hoping that was based on your, if not enjoyment, desire to produce a product that was substantial and fitting for the town of Southwick. You all did fantastic work. I mean, I've started to go through this. It looks like it's a great product, and I would have expected nothing less. So you all are to be commended. I mean, this is a great benefit to the town of Southwick. It's something that we've been talking about for a long time now, and to have this and see it in print and be able to use it, I think will be a great asset. So thank you all very much. The only thing I would say at the end is, if any of you are going to withdraw, not having this committee to be on, the planning board is looking for an alternate member.
Yes.
It's something that, you know, you can certainly talk to any of the planning board members that tell you about it more, but it's a position, initially a non-voting position, but we basically use that as a feeder to get onto the planning board. I think the majority of the planning board has come from that position. So we're certainly looking for, applications from, folks if they want to join. So thank you all.
Any other comments? Let's see, Mr. Spina has been doing double duty here as one of the representatives from the planning board and also on the planning board, so.
So I hope we get at least one vote.
Oh, right, there you are. You got one. We need two more for a majority, right?
So, I can offer my thoughts. Yeah, first, this is the first time, over the last week that I actually got a chance to read the whole plan, right? Roz and I were focused on the land use section. Got to read the whole plan. I I echo the thoughts of everybody else here so far. Thanks, everybody. You really did a really good job of putting this all together. It's very comprehensive. I think it does a real good job of reflecting the copious amounts of data that we collected from the residents of the town as best we could to try to get, the wishes of the town, put into the plan. And fundamentally, I think it forms a pretty good framework that the implementation committee can now take this and move forward. I think, there's, obviously, I think if we had just based on our experience getting the vision right, if we wanted to, we could spend the next 5 years just massaging the plan. But I think it's exactly, so that, I think it's a really good solid effort, and it does what we intended to do.
Anything else for the order? Yes, Mr. Hanson.
I guess I have to ask, do we have some next steps in terms of planning board making comments on the plan, or any of us making additional comments?
Yeah, I think that's a good area, talk a little bit about. And it kind of ties into how we're releasing this, at what point do we release it to the masses? Because I know there's still some more things to be done as far as photographs. Ken, what sort of a time frame? Our next meeting is on the 19th. And a big part of that meeting, I envision, is reviewing the draft housing production plan, which has been running along the side of the master plan. So that is in a revised draft form, I believe, John?
That's correct.
So I would expect Laurie Tanner, possibly from the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, would come to present that to the Master Plan Advisory Committee. So you see where that is. You see some of it in the housing chapter, but the housing production plan is a lot more detailed. And there's certain elements like the master plan that have to be in the housing production plan. So you'll see those and how we are projecting we would meet them. And as I mentioned before, that plan is approved by the planning board and the select board, if they so want to. Anyway, Ken, do you have anything else to say about housing production?
Yeah, so, again, as the chair was saying, it has been going on a parallel track. It is a very formulated plan. A lot of the data set that is in the housing chapter are exactly in the housing production plan. It also examines, utilizing the same maps and a lot of the same plans. So what you'll see is probably more expansive version of the housing chapter. But as the chair said, it is a document that's approved by planning board and the select board. What we also do in the process, I don't know where Lori is at this particular part of the process, but we share also with the executive office of housing and local communities for their initial review to ensure that all the aspects of the formulated plan are met, and then bring that back to the town and assuming that there's a process to have it.
So to get back to Bert's question, what sort of a time frame are you looking for now for some feedback from the?
Can I just touch on the whole feedback thing?
Sure.
And this is my opinion, we presented it to the planning board. We shouldn't give, as members, our feedback opportunity is over. If you find a typo or something, that's one thing, but at some point, we gotta say we're done.
Yeah.
And I think that's tonight. We're done. Now, if you guys have questions, you come back to us with questions, but we shouldn't be giving any more feedback.
Not any substantive change.
Yeah, if, like I said, if there's a typo or something like that, that's fine, but done is done.
Not heads, not.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
So is the housing portion of this, the housing, what was it?
Production plan?
Is that actually under the purview of the master plan advisory committee?
No, but I think it would be well for the committee members who represent a lot of boards and commissions to be aware of it.
But who is that? Who is that? Oh, I came up last meeting too, that we were gonna have a look at that, and who was going to look at that?
It's owed to the planning board and the select board. So I would anticipate presentations at a meeting of those two groups. Because you have to
You
be,
see me.
go ahead.
No, it's that, I said that you probably see me. Yes.
So.
Yeah.
I think to Dave's point, I think he's 100% right. I think we're done.
David, yeah.
I'm just gonna, you have maybe some typos and adding some pictures.
But that's,
Yeah, gotta make sure the pictures are Southwick though, I think
It's
there's one in here that's not.
You're making this sound like a bad breakup.
no, I'm thinking we're done. I think this would be the night that we move to disband the FPAC.
I'll show you.
I was thinking one more wonderful meeting, but I would
I think it's pleasant.
refer to the members here.
Well,
We need to give them a chance to like.
well, and that's right, I'm saying we're done with our part, but if the planning board comes back with questions, then we should give them the opportunity to address this board, right? So I don't know when you're expected to meet again, but my suggestion would be your committee sit down, board sit down, have your meeting, you discuss it. And then either your representatives or anybody that wants to come back to one final meeting where we can address those things. And if that happens to be when there's a conversation with the housing, what have you. But we should at least sit and hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the planning board would hold, essentially a public hearing on this, allowing the planning board to discuss it, allowing input from whoever, whether it's folks who sat on this or whether it's just the public as large, to offer their input. I mean, the other part about it, and I agree with you 100%, Dave, I mean, this is, your job is done. This isn't a vote up or vote down kind of thing. This is something where the planning board can alter it if they want to and vote it to be passed. I mean, this is, you're offering us a document. And, it may very well get changed. I think it may not, but it also, could. So, I think your job is done at that point. We certainly, I think once everybody on the board's had a chance to read through it, and may have specific questions that we can bring to this committee. I don't know, if y'all are having is there one more meeting that you were planning on having?
October 19th would be the next meeting.
But then you have a list of who worked on each section, so.
He's talking about breaking down the committee, couldn't they keep the committee informed, just not meeting? And if we need to come back before you with questions or.
It's already been dismantled, isn't it, as of November 1?
Yeah, you guys killed us on the first.
Oh, that's very good job. It's done whether you like it.
Well, we're not moving to the south. We're not leaving.
Yeah, to the chairman's point, I mean, I view this. And I agree with the chairman that this is just like any other subcommittee that reported back to the planning board. This is the work product we've reported back. Your elected planning board is going to probably have a public hearing or, to vote to amend or change or have some suggestion. They may have differences of opinion with what's in the master plan. They may not, but they're the ones need to vote to adopt the plan with the advice of this group as we present it. There's no different than we had the marijuana subcommittee, we had the short-term rental subcommittee, multiple subcommittees of the planning board that met. We had a downtown committee at one point. They met, they provided input back to your elected planning board. Your elected planning board then goes and does a public hearing and or votes up or down or sends it to town meeting or what have you. But from that's why I agree with Dave, we're done. But whether we can continue to meet, one more meeting or whatnot, our work is pretty much complete. And now it's in the capable hands of your planning board.
Mr. Cheever.
I'd say we're done with the main document and not done with the appendix. I have I'll show you the progress card that I promised I would do for the appendix. All 138 action items are on the progress card. But it's not quite done. I got to pretty it up a little bit. And Marissa was concerned that with the progress card, you wouldn't know what action 1.1 was under land use. Well, we're gonna have a backup document attached to it. It's got every 138 further descriptions with the priority. We'll go in the appendix. And then a final gift to the group, with each board is gonna have a list, with the planning board, for the lead role that they have in the action items. Okay, with the priority, I haven't finished populating the board, so the priorities. Then the planning board will also have the supporting role, all the action items they have, and we'll have this completed for every commission, committee, board that has an action. So that's part of the appendix, it's not ready.
Yeah, that's.
And that goes to my suggestion that the appendix be, besides online, it be in the binder similar to this, but maybe a little bit thicker. Because somebody may want to go back and look at things and, you know, research whatever. Why did this happen? How did this get written the way it was and so on and so on. Norm has been a great data analyst, compiler of information, an innovative thinker. Okay, great.
Similarly, though, you're gonna have to present this to them at one point, because if they strike actions, then it's on them to update the appendix if they're striking actions.
That's right.
Yes.
Maybe Norm should be the alternate member on the.
Yeah, I think he was, fine.
I think he may have leaned into volunteering, yeah.
Planning board is well.
Okay,
I mean, when could we expect a public hearing roughly, because we don't want to lose momentum.
Fair enough. I don't have our calendar. I think we're generally on the 2-week schedule now. The only thing we have to factor in is there is going to be a fall town meeting, yes?
December
December 5th.
5th, I believe.
So we do have some things to take care of prior to that. So we just need to look at our meeting schedule to see where we can fit something in. Ideally, we sort of clear out a meeting and deal with this and have a, lengthy discussion about it. I'm not sure that's happening over in the next 2 meetings, but we'll see what we can do. Our next meeting is Tuesday, yeah, so we'll talk about it on Tuesday and try to fit it into an upcoming meeting.
okay, I guess quickly, under old business, we had item B, which was, future public outreach and events related to the plan. And I guess based on what's being discussed here this evening, we may not be involved in that kind of thing. I don't know. Bert had kind of volunteered to see where, information or public awareness, maybe it's just announcing that there will be a public meeting of some kind of the planning board to discuss or get input on the draft master plan.
We talked about possibly piggybacking on other events or meetings that other groups in town were having. Again, based on tonight's conversation, I'm not sure how that might play out. If there's a special town meeting on December 5th, that would be a great time to have not an item on the agenda, but an info table like we had at the previous town meetings. That we hand out. some kind of an overview, some just to try to encourage people to look at it.
So let me, I guess, open it up to everyone, which is, does it make sense to have the public hearing on it after December 5th? If that's the, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the other part about it, right, logistically, and it doesn't strike me as a huge obstacle, but I think we need, it doesn't have to certainly be final, but a copy of this, which is okay to be published and put on a website so that when we put it on for a public hearing, people can be directed to it, to take a look at it and come with any questions or comments that they have. So we have to at least get to that point before we sort of get it on the agenda, I think, too.
And I would say if we're gonna be doing something on December 5th, like we did, there should be some sort of QR code we can hand out, scan it, takes them right to the document, let them go to the document. So that, again, as Mike said, when the public hearing comes around, they already have their questions.
And I think too, John Goddard's our common link here. And he's been helping our committee. And he's also the town planner, so he works for the planning board as far as doing things, so we'll try to fit it together, but I think, sounds like maybe that town meeting, December 5th, we could have a table, and that would be pretty much where we would want to go.
I mean, if it makes sense, we can shoot to try to put it on for December 12th, which is our only December meeting, right, because of the holidays.
Oh.
So it may make sense to try to put the,
I think having the QR card, like having a little card that you're like passing out at the thing, it says like link to like, you know, the plan, and there's, you know, not a lot of explanation or anything, just, you know, check this out, we're having a meeting, maybe that's on the card, like a little 3x5 card type of thing to pass out. I think that would be helpful. Whether you do it right after that, or the first week of January, I don't know.
I think right after that, otherwise people are gonna disengage
Good idea.
from December 5th to January, a lot happens.
Really?
Like a lot of-
Well, the thing too about having a public hearing started, you can always continue it. Need to.
no, absolutely, I mean, but yeah,
Get it over.
we'll,
Get it going.
we'll shoot to try to put it on and try to clear out that December 5th meeting,
Yeah.
December 12th meeting, and,
Yeah.
get it on for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, you have a
Yes.
raise hand from Lisa.
Marissa?
Yes, yes, back home and baby's fed. So thank you for letting me speak. I just was thinking in terms of outreach. I mean, Chairman Doherty mentioned publishing it on the website and doing all the normal channels that we do, Facebook. Once there is a final product and all the photos are on there and it's kind of, you know, the pretty package, would it be okay with the committee members in lieu of having this event that we had discussed where Bert might, you know, be the might be leading some sort of outreach event to just do a Southwoods article? I mean, that's been really effective in the past. And if we're talking about a QR code, throw that there on the article so that people could just scan that and have direct access to the final product. I mean, I'm just trying to think about ways to continue the momentum and the visibility that we've had just as a conclusion and kind of sunsetting everything as well.
Yeah,
Comments?
that sounds good. That would have to be, just in terms of timing, that would have to be the November Southwoods, because Southwoods doesn't hit our mailboxes generally until around almost the middle of the month, you know, so.
So it'd have to be November Southwoods,
Right.
which is due
This week.
yesterday, to yesterday. So John, could you coordinate with Marissa and see what sort of timeframes we have there? I mean, officially, the planning board is approving the release of the document, so we'd have to make clear whatever we're talking about and people get to look at for that December hearing is a draft, final draft, but it's not the final.
Yeah, you gotta keep draft on.
That's approved. Yeah, Yeah.
Doug, don't you need contact for your visa?
No, I just did it. Diane's next. Or Jason, I'm not sure who's next.
But you're not.
No, I just did it 2 weeks ago. Thank you both for watching.
Oh, were you on the?
The radio thing that we do once a month.
Oh,
So we rotate, so it's every third month for each one.
all right.
You double your audience, Doug.
Standing room only. Okay, we'll move on quickly under new business, discuss release of the master plan. Again, I guess based on our discussions, that's the planning board's,
All yours.
responsibility. No. It's in your hands, and of course, we'll help as we can. Mr. Camilla, what is the, anticipated final publication numbers of plan that will be published? 25?
I have to review this, so maybe it was, I don't know,
How much?
I think it was less than that. Okay. All right now.
It is what it is.
I think we said a handful,
If-
25, I'll give you a little report back.
Ken, if members of the committee are willing to kind of, because can we fund our own copy if it was only 10, because you run a longer print run rather than doing it? Can you find out how much?
Yeah, I can explore that.
Get us a poll.
Yeah.
Yeah, see what we
More
get.
than print the cheaper per copy.
Yeah.
No, you gotta sign your letter.
I'll confirm that.
Yeah, it'd be good to have that information for the next meeting.
Yeah.
So we could decide, if we do want to have copies. Because we will autograph copies, of course, for distribution. But I'm still old school. I like hard copies. Obviously, library has to have a copy, maybe 2 copies of the plan and then the appendix for those who like to research things. So. Any other comments on that? All right, 2 items of, well, 1 item of routine business. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. So I entertain a motion amongst the master plan advisory committee members to approve the minutes of September 7th. Motion made by Roz Terry, is there a second?
Second by Norm.
Seconded by Norm Cheever, roll call vote on the minutes.
Mark Spell,
Aye.
David Spina,
Aye.
Doug Mogul,
Aye.
Randy Brown,
Aye.
Bert Hanson.
He left us out.
Oh.
I was like, he was here.
Yeah, well,
Dave McWilliam,
hi.
Scott Lehman,
Stay.
Dory Boyd,
Yeah, so I just say.
Ross Terry,
Yes.
Jess Parker, aye. Corey Rowland,
Aye.
Marissa Cook Obregon,
Aye.
There's no.
And Norm's an eye too.
Just say
Yeah,
aye.
they call.
oh, I'm sorry, Norm.
Want to go back and get Bert?
Aye.
Bert Hanson, aye. Good.
All right,
Scott,
so
Bert, fire.
Top shelf first.
I think, with 2 abstentions, the minutes of September 7th, 2023 are approved. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of September 21st, 2023.
So.
Motion made by Mr. Brown, second.
No, ladies first.
Second by Roz Terry. Roll call vote again.
Mark Spell,
Aye.
David Spina,
Aye.
Doug Mogul,
Aye.
Randy Brown,
Aye.
Bert Hanson,
Aye.
Dave McWilliam,
Aye.
Norm Cheever,
Aye.
Scott Lehman,
Stay.
Dory Boyd, Ross Terry, Jess Parker, aye. Corey Rowland,
Aye.
Marissa Cook Obregon,
Aye.
Yes. All All right, with one abstention, the minutes of September 21st, 2023 are approved by the majority vote. We are all set on the administration. Last item, any committee member comments for the good of the cause?
Mr. Chairman, I did ask as a sidebar to, Planner Goddard, who's, by the way, thank you for all your hard work on it. But, to report back, since we are gonna have a next meeting, is a final, financial report of the subcommittee. I understand the gift account is about done, but we've allocated significant money. We got grants, we had other stuff. I'd like to present to the subcommittee and back to the planning board, what's the financial standing of the committee as we close out.
Thank you. I will add another item. Agenda. All right, I think that's it. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
And one more plug. Next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday, 12 o'clock noon, Wally Park, Top First Fire Department. It's a fundraiser for breast cancer. So if you can make it, bring the family and,
It's not gonna rain.
it's gonna rain like hell this Saturday.
Okay.
Following Saturday, it's gonna be a beautiful day. Come on out, have a good time.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mogul, seconded by Roz Terry. All those in favor? See you on the 19th. Planning board members, please stay behind.